Diego. You may hear my ding dong in the background, so apologies for that. Thank you for joining our second installment of the Digital Inclusion in the Promise and Workshop series, which is a series of workshops focused on promoting digital equity and inclusion, and an opportunity for Promise Zone and all partners across the region to learn about efforts happening in the Promise Zone to address this issue. This workshop is hosted in partnership with our Jobs and Education Working Groups. Quick shout out to the co-chairs. So thank you to all four of you for supporting staff as we prioritize digital equity as a response to the COVID-19 pandemic. If you missed the last one, it is recorded and it lives on our website. Today's workshop will also be recorded and available for future viewing. So look out for resources on that. The focus of our conversation today will be access to connectivity and devices. Today, we will learn about the Federal Emergency Broadband Benefit from the Federal Communications Commission and the city's partnership with pillars of the community to promote enrollment of residents that would benefit from this program. Today, we will also learn about the expansion of the City of San Diego's SD Access for All initiative, and then have the opportunity to open up for feedback what a needs assessment and asset mapping activities to identify gaps in services could look like, and to inform the work that the city is driving through SD Access for All. To walk us through a new important federal effort to provide connectivity to low-income families, today we have with us Kayla Hernandez-Ulloa, Associate Division Chief at the Federal Communications Commission in the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau's Consumer Affairs and Outreach Division. Her principal responsibility is to address the public's concerns with regards to telecommunication issues, including but not limited to broadband, consumer education, and public events. Thank you for being here today, Kayla. We also have with us today Leila Assis, Director of Operations of Pillars of the Community, which is the outreach partner the city will be working with to promote enrollment on the Emergency Broadband Benefit. Pillars civic engagement focuses on residents, on the respondents and residents in Southeast San Diego through an integrated engagement model that targets hard-to-reach residents and communities. Pillars was key in ensuring all voices were represented in the 2020 census count, and we're really thankful to have them here at the table today. So thank you for being here today to you both. We encourage folks to drop their questions in the chat so that our presenters are able to answer them either during their presentation or at the end of it. And as a separate note, we will be able to share the slides and the recording of the meeting with you all later this week. As a reminder, please remain on mute unless you would like to speak to minimize disruptions. With that, Kayla, thank you so much for joining us today. Please take it away.
Hello, everyone. Happy to be here sharing information about the Emergency Broadband Benefit Program, which is a new program that has launched under the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021. So today I'll be discussing what is the benefit, who is eligible, how households can apply, and I will share an overview of the FCC's outreach toolkit, which is also part of this effort. So what is the benefit? The Emergency Broadband Benefit is a program that recently launched from the Federal Communications Commission. It provides up to a discount of $50 per month off your monthly internet bill. Or if you live on tribal lands, that can go up to $75 per month. A note on this, you do not have to be a member of the tribe to subscribe to the tribal benefit. You just have to be living on tribal lands. There are a lot of participant providers, but not all are participate. And amongst those that do, there are those that offer up to $100 off the price of a laptop, desktop, or tablet that can be purchased through this participating provider. All the consumer has to do is pay anywhere at least $10, but no more than $50 towards the purchase price. Let's see. Some reason my slides are not moving, but I will continue talking. So who qualifies for the benefit? We're going to be talking a lot about households during this presentation, but a household is eligible if any member receives one of the following. It does not have to be all, because a lot of people ask me if it's all. A Pell Grant in the current award year, if there's a child in the household that receives benefits under the free or reduced school lunch or breakfast program, and it could have been for the 2019-2020 school year, or this year, 2020-2021, if there's an experience of substantial loss of income due to job loss or furlough, And this would be starting February 29th, 2020. And the household had a total income for single filers $99,000 or joint filers no more than $198,000. The household could also meet the eligibility requirements of participating providers, existing COVID-19 program, or some kind of low-income program. There is another qualifier, which is the Lifeline program, and I'll just give a really quick overview of that. Lifeline is a federal program that lowers the monthly cost of phone and internet. The household can receive up to $9.25, or if they live on tribal lands, $34.25 towards their bill. Qualifying for Lifeline would be either the household has an income less than 135% of the federal poverty guidelines, or, and I'll go over this since I shared my slides for future sharing, or meets one of the requirements. So it could be someone who is receiving benefits under the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, known as SNAP, a recipient of Medicaid benefits, or perhaps Supplemental Security Income, which is also known as SSI. A household is a group of people who live together and share expenses, and they don't necessarily have to be related to each other. So that's the definition of the household for the purposes of this program. So if you live together but don't share expenses, or share expenses but don't live together, then you are considered two or more households. And the household can qualify because of an eligible dependent child, which I mentioned before could be receiving, for example, benefits under the free or reduced school lunch or breakfast programs. There's going to be also a worksheet that will accompany your application that can help you determine how your household is eligible for this benefit. I'll go quickly through this slide, but the most important thing here is a lot of people ask, if I live in a multi-unit dwelling, can I apply for the benefit? And the answer is yes. And this includes apartment buildings, nursing homes, group homes. They can all take advantage of the benefit. We recommend highly that if you are going to do this, talk to your property manager or landlord to see what existing internet services they're offering and see if they're going to participate in this program. We call this additional details, but it's really the highlights of this program. The enrollment opened on May 12th. The Emergency Broadband Benefit program is a temporary program. It will either continue until the funds run out, and that's $3.2 billion under the Consolidated Appropriations Act, or if the Department of Health and Human Services declares the pandemic over, and then 6 months after that date, whichever one comes first. So again, we don't have a deadline for this program. So I encourage everyone to take advantage and share with your community. The program is administered by the Universal Service Administrative Company, also known as USAC. They're the ones that administer Lifeline. They are running the site that includes the online application and the toll-free number that they have, which I'll mention quickly, 833-511-0311 for any information regarding the application. I'm with the Consumer Affairs and Outreach Division, as I mentioned before, so we like to talk about consumer protections. This is a long slide, but I'll point out the two most important things. Participating providers must give household notice about the last date of the billing cycle that they'll receive the benefit. So it's not like a consumer is receiving the benefit and the next month they won't see it. The provider must let them know when it will end. And households will need to opt in or request to continue broadband service with their provider. So, you're participating in the program, but once it ends, you need to opt into the service to continue with that provider. You won't automatically be receiving it. Participating providers can be both offering fixed services, and that services offered to the home, or mobile broadband services, which are usually device-based. Check with your broadband provider to see what they are doing for this program and if they are participating in this program. If they are not, we do have, the FCC has a list available of participating providers by state at fcc.gov/broadband benefit. There are 3 ways to enroll. A consumer can contact a participating broadband provider directly to learn about their process. Someone can go to getemergencybroadband.org to apply online, or they can download, print the application and complete it and mail it to the Emergency Broadband Support Center at P.O. Box 7081 in London, Kentucky, 40742 is the zip. You can enroll via provider. Again, the most important thing here is contact your existing provider. Many of them can enroll you by using their FCC approved alternate verification process. Applying directly online, again, getemergencybroadband.org, click on how to apply, and then after you receive eligibility determination from the national verifier, you can contact a service provider to enroll. Applying by mail mentioned before, but again, the most important thing here is to remember that if you mail your application to help with processing, please include any supporting documents and the household worksheet. Really want to remind consumers not to mail in original documentation. Please use copies of your documents. Showing you qualify, really to confirm your eligibility, additional documentation can be mailed or submitted electronically. We repeat this a lot because consumers might forget when they mail the application that they might have to include additional documents to verify their identity and such. I'm going to go quickly through our outreach toolkit, which is available on our website. You can go to fcc.gov/broadband benefit. We encourage everyone to share these with their communities. It includes social, printables, videos, and PSAs. I like to point out some of my favorites, which are the newsletter inserts. There's a fact sheet, and we have an overview of video and how to apply. And we also have, for people who need it in American Sign Language, we have a video available. Here's some social images, some printables. These are some examples of our flyers. We have the videos and PSAs. Right there is a picture of one of my colleagues that does American Sign Language interpreting. The toolkit is available in 14 different languages, which you see here. The translated materials are the fact sheet, the 9x5 info cards, and there's a quarter-page handout that you can just give out to your community. People that need alternate formats can send an email to fcc504@fcc.gov. So if anyone has questions, please remember fcc.gov/broadband benefit has answers. Call the toll-free number 833-511-0311 or get the application at getemergencybroadband.org. And here's my email address in case anyone has questions for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Kayla. We do have a question coming in the chat. Is this program available nationwide? And if you're residing in another country, can one apply? Are there citizenship requirements to access this program?
Okay, so the first question, this is available to everyone living in the 50 states and the US territories. If you are currently a US citizen living in a foreign country, unfortunately, you cannot apply for the program because your home address has to be within the 50 states or the US territories. So that's how they can apply. I believe the second question was regarding citizenship. So
are there any requirements in regards to citizenship?
So that is not asked on the form, if I recall correctly. So when you open the application, and again, I am not the person that is in charge of application, meaning FCC, it's under USAC. But when you go to the application, you can use your social security number to apply, or if you decide to use another method, there is a listing of alternative methods and information that they ask. I do recall that, for example, driver's license is one of the documentations you can use instead of a social security number. And there are others also too that consumers can use. So whichever one they have, that is the one that you can use.
Any other questions from Kayla while we have her here during her presentation?
Kayla, I have one. Kayla, how are you tracking enrollment numbers? And will you release reports on enrollment?
That is a good question, and that's for USAC. So further down the line, since the program just started, there may be information that is released, but right now, that is something that USAC is doing, not necessarily FCC, because we're not the ones that process the applications. But that said, consumers can still visit our website, fcc.gov/broadband benefit, for more information. And if they need information about who the participating providers are, they can visit also our page and click on participating providers.
As a follow-up to that question, Keelan, thank you for answering. Could you maybe perhaps bring a little clarity as to what are the roles of the FCC, and then what are USAC roles as well? What is the role of the internet service providers as well?
Okay, well, I will not really talk to internet service providers because the FCC regulates them. And so that would be kind of a conflicting there. But the difference between FCC and USAC, so USAC is administering all the information. So they administer the Lifeline program, they are administering this page, and any questions that go towards the application, USAC is also administering. FCC, they work with USAC. We're a regulatory agency, and so all the reports and orders that people read about, notices of proposed rulemakings, and such related and such, that comes out of the FCC. So if, for example, you go onto our website and look for Emergency Broadband Benefit, you'll see some public notices that are released from the FCC. One of the more recent ones was actually announcing the launch date of the program, which was May 12th.
There's a question in the chat from Nicole from the RC. Are there any resources in any other languages expected, or the ability to request translation to other languages?
Definitely, if there are languages that are in a need for your community, I cannot guarantee that they will be done, because again, I'm not the person that manages the contract, but we do look at that information. That's how we got the list of languages that we have currently now. If you have not joined or the FCC to be a partner in distributing information about this program, please join. Go to fcc.gov/broadband benefit and click where it says become a partner. Our partners back in March, we sent out an email blast to the partners asking them for suggestions on what languages they were needed. And also, when you become a partner, you receive all the information via email, and that information then you can share with your community. Again, the last email that we sent to our partners was the day before the program launched, just reminding them to please remind your community that on May 12th, the program will launch.
I have another question. So this is a great benefit. What can we do to advocate to make it a permanent benefit or longer term?
That is a good question. I think as my role of someone who's at the FCC, I would recommend, we have also an outreach component. We have the broadband benefit email address, which is broadbandbenefit@fcc.gov. We also have our outreach email address, outreach@fcc.gov. Those are really two great ways of the communities all sharing information with us. I look at both, and obviously I and my supervisors above me, we do look at that information. So that's something that I would suggest. Keep sending emails. Again, broadband benefit@fcc.gov and outreach@fcc.gov.
I also want to address a question that came through the chat. So if a family either commutes or receives education in the US, they may live right outside the border. Is there any special consideration to border communities? Is this benefit available to them as well?
as long as the household has an address within the US or the territories, that household qualifies, but they must have an address that is based in the US or the territories.
Any other questions for Kayla? Please feel free to unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. I'll give it another minute. Thank you so much, Kayla, for your participation. If you can hang on in case there are any other questions, we would really appreciate it. But now we would like to welcome Leila Assis from Pillars of the Community, who is the official partner with the City of San Diego, as they are promoting enrollment for this program and the SD Access for All initiatives at large. So welcome, Leila. We're so thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. So we're getting ramped up right now so that our outreach strategies, we can implement our outreach strategies and get to as many people who are eligible for this program as we can. So of course, the first thing that we do is we test run it to see how it works, to see what kind of information is requested, to see how long the installation will be. So we had our first person do their application who did not have broadband. So we're noticing that there's going to be differences. Some people might have broadband already, but they're struggling to pay it. And some people don't have it at all. And so this person, they did not have broadband. They did their application on Thursday, last Thursday. I don't remember the date. And their installation was this Saturday. That was with Cox Cable. Their first choice was AT&T, and that's where they were talking about what providers are in your area. And she found through looking that AT&T did not provide service in her area. And so she went with Cox Broadband, and she seems pleased. We do have some other people going who currently have cable. They're still low income, to see what that process is going to be like. When we go in the community, we like to be able to answer the questions the community might have. From what we've seen, if you're not documented, that's not going to stop you from getting the internet service. There's other ways, as the previous presenter said, for you to actually become eligible, whether it's through different documentation or even through your children's eligibility. If you have children who have a social security number, you can utilize that, and that makes you eligible. So we're getting ramped up for those things. Some of our biggest strategies are going to really be getting out into a community, getting out into our community, and meeting people where they are through what we call pop-up outreach events, utilizing social distancing with the census. So during the census, we would have census workers who would actually help with the applications. They would have their laptops or their tablets out there. We would have our outreach people who would engage the people and make sure they're going the right way. Okay, if you want a ticket for food, you're gonna have to go to the census booth, do your census, then you'll go get your food ticket. Music, if we're able to have music, amplified music, and then just people, it's a good time. It's a community event, it's networking, and people enjoy it. And so we're gonna be doing that in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 different locations. Our first one is gonna be at El Paisa Taco Shop on the 23rd. 405 Park is one of them. We go into really low income intensive places. We're talking to MAC Project about getting into some of theirs. We're working with Lorena Fletcher Gonzalez's office about doing some stuff in Barrio Logan, and Pana about doing some stuff in City Heights. We're even talking to a mosque about doing a pop-up outreach event there. And so we want to make sure that we're getting to the people, the low income people, we're getting to diverse people, and that we're utilizing those different language pamphlets in the toolkit in order to cross if we have any language barriers, and our outreach workers are just as diverse as the community itself. We're also going to be going to food banks. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the lines at the food banks, or where they give food in our community, are very long. And it saddens me every time I go by and I see a line just wrapped around the street down Imperial Avenue, going down past lights, because it really shows how the need is there. And so we're going to take that time to do what we did with the census. We walk up to cars. If they're standing in line, we walk up to them, we help them do their application, just using some of those best practices. I do see a question. I want to make sure, because I know you got a lot through the, no, they're not. When you say those opportunities, do you mean the different pop-ups we're doing, Christy?
Yes.
No, but that's a good idea. What I'll do is on our Facebook, and I'm not sure about our website, I'll make sure we put a calendar
Perfect.
so that you can send people there.
Thank you, Layla.
No worries. Is the application itself in various languages? From what I saw, it was not, Matthew. but I'm not sure if the FCC, I might not have looked correctly, but when I went through it, it was just in English. I don't know if she's still on, and I'll look again to make sure if maybe you can, sometimes you can change the language on the actual application websites. I'll see if maybe I just didn't look at that. Can you direct people there to find out where you will be? Yes. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you for everything you do. We want to partner with people when we go out there. If there's anyone else who's offering anything to the community, we'll have food there at the pop-up events, and there'll be free food. So that's something that'll really drive people there. So what I'm really looking for is they'll be at schools. We're gonna do presentations with schools. And Stacy, I got your email. I'll be responding shortly. Says thank you so much. And libraries, I'm not so sure. I don't think that's a problem though. They're not in our outreach plan. Job fairs, we would love to because that's where your low income is. So we're looking at the food banks, but we really want to get this out. We want to saturate San Diego. So when our outreach workers do their outreach plan, because sometimes they just go out. They don't have a scheduled, okay, this food bank doesn't start until this hour. This is what I'm going to do within this hour. We do work plans, and then they have how many people they want to hit or actually reach per week. We can look at job fairs and include that. It's important to me that San Diego comes out on top as one of we did the most intensive outreach, and we got a lot of our people enrolled into this program. Rent is high here. A lot of people are struggling. The need is definitely here. So it's just our jobs to make sure we're getting the word out. So if any of you guys want us somewhere, or if you know of a place where there are a lot of low income people, we're good at what we do, but we don't say we know everything. So please let me know, hey, Layla, there's going to be something going on in this area, and there's going to be a lot of low income people there. They probably could use this information. Please let me know so we can dispatch some of our folks there. Even if it's to stand in line, we don't need a booth. Also, if you're interested, yes, please take my email down if you have any questions. It's layla@potcsd.org, and Ali put it in the chat. It's in Spanish. Thank you, Kayla. So the actual application for the broadband is in Spanish and English. It's not in any other languages. That's why it's really important that our outreach workers are able to speak some of those languages that we have in San Diego to help people navigate through the computer system. We see a lot of times it's elders at the food banks. They're kids who normally translate for them, or grandkids are in school. So we're going to make sure that our outreach workers, when they go to, we know the prominent language, and that they're able to help them navigate that just like their children would if they weren't in school. We're excited. We believe that just using some of the strategies we have, we'll be able to reach a lot. But like I told you before, we don't know everything. So if you know of anything, just let us know, and we'd be happy to go there too. Any other questions? Oh, I have a question for you guys. Does anyone know? Thank you, Kayla. There's a language, if anyone needs to do the application and they're not going to do it in person with us, there's a toll-free number, excuse me, that there's other languages included. So you can utilize that. And do we know if there are going to be any summer jobs for youth this summer in San Diego is my question. Because I would love a provider out who's providing those summer paid internship jobs.
And this, I think, is a great opportunity for us to turn it over to Stacy, who's raising her hand.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi, everyone. I'm learning these controls over here, so let me lower it. So to answer your question, yes, there are summer opportunities, paid opportunities for our youth. We recently, just on our Jobs and Education Working Group, had presentations from San Diego County Office of Education, as well as SeaWorld and the zoo, and amongst others. So we can get that information, and I can share that with you during our phone call, as you know, I can see how to mobilize the work on behalf of the school district. And for anyone else who's interested in those resources, I believe they go out in our Promise Zone newsletter. Is that right, team? Okay.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, thanks. So I wanted to ask a question to you, Layla, and then also make a general comment to you, but also to everyone, all of our partners here today. So my question, I apologize if I missed it, was, is there a time period that we have to work with for either the program or the pop-ups in and of themselves? Like, what are our time boundaries that we have to do the work and then to plan for it?
That's a great question, Stacy. So we're looking at pretty much now until mid-July.
Okay, thanks.
That's to get all the outreach out there and get people enrolled into the program.
Okay, and then my other thing that I wanted to say, and then I just share this with everyone here today, because I know sometimes, particularly in the Promise Zone, we all have a desire to give and to serve and to, you know, mobilize the work of our individual organizations. Oftentimes, some of the partners are not as closely connected to the community as, say, you, for example, as Pillars, being a resident and also a frontliner. And then also tied organizationally to, you know, actual impact. So my statement here is to all of the organizations who are present is I would like to invite you all to partner with Layla and Pillars of the Community, in particular to participate, to contribute, to build relationships with, and also to learn from this organization and also the people who will be attracted to this event. In particular, because of our goal as a Promise Zone to re-engage and to be able to engage at more meaningful and relevant levels with the communities that we're serving. So I just want to use this as an opportunity to participate and contribute. I think she mentioned a few asks. So I just wanted to offer that to the collective of the Promise Zone partners. Thank you.
And I also want to acknowledge Myron's comment on participation from community planning groups and council offices, as well as the mayor's office getting involved. Thank you, Martha, as well. We think that this is a great opportunity for us to making those types of connections and be able to really support and boost the efforts that Pillars is doing in terms of the rollout and enrollment for this program.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention this really important part, to come learn engagement strategies, okay? Come learn how to engage these, okay, thank you.
There's plenty of resources being dropped on the chat as well. Stan with your alternatives, Ernesto with the Senio Continuing Office of Education as well. So Layla, I think that there's great, goodwill from this group to really be able to partner up and collaborate to boost this message and really be sure that the San Diego numbers are high and that the enrollment is really addressing the need.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone who put with their planning and their contact information. Thank you so much. I'll definitely be contacting you, Ernesto. I have your email address. I'll be sending you an email to see how we can partner. Thank you.
Any other questions for Layla? Any other suggestions? Any other, potential partnerships? We are here to workshop this. And we want to make sure that our outreach is getting to the pockets that we're not getting traditionally. It's hard to, it's not like you can just send an email to people who have never been connected before. So any other suggestions, we're all ears. We will be dropping Layla's information with your permission, of course, in the chat so that people can reach to you as well and be able to go from there.
My last ask would be if we can identify who works with youth who are not involved in anything, not involved in school, 18 through 25, not involved in anything. If you could please send them my way. We're going to go out in the community and identify them through a lot of the workers we have are formerly incarcerated, we're formerly involved in gangs, but we really want to use this to not just bring the broadband to our community, but also leverage safety and other things in our community. And then hopefully we'll be able to pass these youth on to some of you guys, and they'll be ready to get back into school and other things. And if there's any other paid internships for these type of youth that are not in school, that have a higher risk for violence or to be murdered, please send them to my way, because we're coming against summer right now. So it's very important that we deal with some of the issues we may have and utilize some of these great funding opportunities to really get to the people in our community and help the folks in our community.
Can I ask you a question about that, Layla? Do you mean which organizations here, or which, do we have kids that we would like to send your way? I've got my CASA kid I would like to send your way.
Yes. So if you have someone you'd like to send my way, we're going to have some outreach positions. And we're going to have other positions too from redistricting. And we really like to work with young people who in the Promise Zone, but mostly Southeastern, who are either can be violent or can have violence upon themselves, because that's a very gray area. And so if you have like the woman or male you're speaking of, if they fit that, we'd really like to work with them.
Layla, let me say this too, to answer your question, for youth or individuals in South in particular who are not involved in anything disengaged. And I'll share this with you, but I want everyone else to know too, if you have any other impacted populations. So I'm currently working on a scholarship opportunity from, I got that AXA, that administrator award, and then I was able to raise $20,000. We talked about this. So I've decided, instead of pouring more money into the pipeline for students who are going to college, to divert that to the population who is not engaged in school too. So we do have money for them. And the criteria is that they're justice impacted or gang impacted or violence impacted in some way. So I'm working on that criteria right now, but it's about 20,000 that we have to work with for this population. So yes, we do have something. It's not a lot, but it's something.
It's fantastic.
Any other thoughts or comments, perhaps some ideas based on Layla's a request? We want to make sure that we are boosting and building on her efforts and really leveraging the Promise Zone network to be able to really spread the word out.
Latanya, I've been so busy, I haven't called you yet, but I've been dreaming about you every night. Latanya has that mental health first aid training. That's another thing that we need in our community when we look at violence and violence prevention and a lot of the things that are going on with state-sanctioned violence and the mentally ill. So thank you, Latanya. And if there's any of the people that you've trained from low-income areas, we would love to talk to them about broadband and really integrating the service with what everyone is already doing to help everything become even more robust. And any kind of connections or holes, if we can be the person that fills that hole, we would like to do that. Still maintaining and being very clear on what our outreach goal is, though, and that's providing the broadband to people. I learned a long time ago when you're funded with great things like this, it gives you the opportunity to do a lot of other stuff.
Well, thank you, Layla.
Any other
Thank you, Kayla, as well, for all of your contributions as it relates to the Emergency Broadband Benefit. You will all be receiving the resources shared during their presentations as a follow-up email, but I do encourage you to contact them directly if you have any thoughts or ideas or questions in relation to the program. We want to make sure that San Diego is well represented and that we're connecting our Promise Zone population. So thank you so much to both of you for being here today. We really appreciate it. So that's not the only effort, though, that is coming, that is applicable to the city of San Diego. We do have a couple of other things to talk about, such as the expansion of SE Access for All. So our next speaker is Jonathan Benke, the Chief Information Officer for the city of San Diego. He has over 20 years of IT experience managing and implementing technology for a broad range of industries. We're so happy to have him here, and please, Jonathan, take it away. Muted.
There we go. Double unmute. All good. Thank you, CEO. All right, let me share my screen. So today I'm going to talk about some of the background and details on the city's digital equity program called SD Access for All. When we talk about digital equity, I think, the pandemic has even shown us more how dire the situation can be for someone without digital access. It's a real foundation for most interactions in life right now. Government services, civic engagement, even basic needs now like telehealth, banking, getting safety information, distance learning has been a standard during the pandemic. Applying for work, searching for work, but also during the pandemic, people have been working online. Many, a huge shift in the workforce going online, workforce development. If you want to have a business today, you've really got to be online for the most part, in some way, shape, or form. And then connections, social connections with family and friends, really all of that is done today online. So looking at census data, it really points to 53,000 households in San Diego that lack broadband access. And when we talk about digital equity, the three pillars of digital equity are access to devices, broadband access, which you need to really do anything, and then digital literacy, knowing how to use those devices. And the city of San Diego adopted a fourth pillar during the pandemic after SD Unified School District and other community organizations expressed emerging and urgent needs for safe and stable spaces where children and adults can focus and feel secure when they're connected to the digital world. So this is the problem we're trying to address. And there are some working definitions that the City of San Diego is using to frame our digital equity and inclusion strategies. In our last Digital Inclusion in the Promise Zone workshop, Rebecca Kalma, who's the Economic and Digital Inclusion Program Manager from the City of Long Beach, shared some of those definitions with us. The digital divide is really talking about that gap between the communities that have access and those that do not. And then digital equity is when everyone has access to those things. So that's really the goal. Digital redlining, that's really the inverse, where tech practices or policies are creating those gaps, that digital divide. And digital inclusion is that proactive insurance that everyone has equitable access to all those resources, really addressing those four pillars. And our long-term goal is to build a sustainable digital equity ecosystem, and many departments in the city are using a digital equity lens in their work and coming together to shape a common vision and strategy. And we're also forming partnerships with community-based organizations to support the work that they're already doing and develop new programs to leverage this work. So this fiscal year, fiscal 21, started on July 1st, and the City Council allocated one-time funding of $500,000 for internet access for low-income communities. And the independent budget analyst in the budget recommendation for that item really included three areas: developing free public Wi-Fi hotspots at city facilities like libraries, parks, in low-income communities, and then exploring and developing partnerships with internet service providers and nonprofit partners to provide free or low-cost internet, and also creating an internal team from appropriate city departments to lead those efforts. And so a digital equity working group was created right out of the gates last July, and representation from many departments, from the mayor's office, from our city council offices, our independent budget analyst, economic development department, public library, our parks department, Department of IT, performance and analytics, and our communications department. And that logo you see there is really what came out of that. So the program was branded SD Access for All. And this is a summary of some of the projects that the program has addressed this year, and it's quite a list. And we started out, in the beginning of everything here, we were really concerned about hitting the ground running, getting public Wi-Fi out there as quickly as possible. And again, with a pandemic, really relying on outdoor access. So the first thing we did was connect 30 libraries with outdoor Wi-Fi, but 10 of those libraries opened up in September with outdoor computer labs, and that provided tables, chairs, shade canopies, laptops for checkout. The Library Foundation helped out with some of the devices on that, and people can bring in their own devices, but that was a way for people to safely get connected during the pandemic at those 10 library locations. And then a couple of months ago, we expanded at the library programs 900 mobile hotspots. So those run off the cellular network, in this case through AT&T. And patrons can go to the library, check those hotspots out for a month, really come home and use those and get some broadband speeds from those connections. So another way for someone to really expand on that access and bring it to their household. And then parks. So a big shout out to the Parks Foundation. Their first wave of work connected 24 parks. The city has an additional 6 that didn't require any trenching. So in total, I think in the first wave we'll have 30 total parks, but I know the Parks Foundation is planning on more work. So again, a big thanks to the Parks Foundation for their work in getting our parks connected. And then we worked with Cox. They have over 500 hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots along the streets throughout the city. And we found that 255 of those are in our low to moderate income communities. So we got those connected in March, and those are available for residents. Again, another way to get connected in addition to the other locations. And then digital navigation services. So the city worked with the National Digital Inclusion Alliance and really working on the digital literacy piece and training the library staff, working with some of the community-based organizations and getting that support line out there in the digital literacy world. And then Leila talked about the work that Pillars of the Community is doing. And again, the community outreach piece is so important as we can, turn all these services up, but we've got to make sure that the community has awareness and we can get them connected, supporting multiple languages. We saw the Emergency Broadband Benefit as a huge opportunity for getting the community connected. So great to be working with Pillars on that. And then from the device standpoint, 410 Chromebooks in total between the parks and libraries were procured, again to get the devices into the hand of the people consuming those services. I think there's various programs at the libraries. Parks has a tutoring program and other programs. So great to get some devices. And then last July, we announced a partnership with the San Diego Futures Foundation. And that was actually started before the pandemic, but I think good timing. So the city, as we have our computers reach end of life, the Futures Foundation refurbishes those computers. They've got licensing deal with Microsoft and really breathes new life into those computers, gets those out into the community. So Gary and company at the Futures Foundation doing great work there. And then lastly, something that's almost done, not quite, but we've been working on partnerships with the school districts. And again, looking at some of the locations that we see as gaps right now with some of these other initiatives. We're working with San Diego Unified School District to get 10 schools connected. So hoping to have that done next month. And then another initiative, I'll turn it over to CO to talk about the public Wi-Fi expansion in the Promise Zone.
Thank you for that, Jonathan, and for the presentation. If anyone has any questions as it relates to any of the initiatives that SD Access for All has already implemented or plans to implement, please either drop them in the chat or feel free to ask those to Jonathan and the team directly. I just wanted to make sure that we were following up on, what was the workshop component of our lesson that we met as a digital inclusion in the Promise Zone workshop series, which is last December. So at that time, we asked for your input as to where were gaps in connectivity within the Promise Zone, just to make sure that we were advocating for the appropriate connectivity through SD Access for All and existing city contracts to be able to really get at some of the gaps in connectivity be, from an infrastructure standpoint, make sure that we were getting at some of the barriers that have been pervasive within the Promise Zone as it relates to the infrastructure that typically allows for more points of connectivity. So with that said, based on input solicited by, that we solicited from you all as our partners, during our last December meeting, the city is actually adding 19 new Wi-Fi access points at no cost, where residents can access free Wi-Fi in areas of the Promise and where gaps in coverage were identified. And this is why I want to stress that your feedback is really important, why we host this type of meeting, to really hear back from you and really to be able to be advocates within city policies and to really be able to apply that equity lens within everything that the city is doing in terms of digital equity and inclusion, to ultimately get at the communities that need it the most. With that said, we're working in partnership with SANDAG as well as to be able to streamline our data collection in terms of where gaps for connectivity are there. This is also going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to, just perfect our outreach efforts as well. So this is something really exciting that I really want to thank Jonathan, you and your team. I know that Ryan has done amazing job, working with Cox directly to be able to get this up and running. So with that said, is there anything else that you wanted to share, Jonathan? I know that you've been part of those conversations as well.
No, I think the feedback from the Promise Zone folks have been great, allowing us to access these locations. We got engineers together. Chicano Park is a challenging place to provide Wi-Fi, but we got the engineering folks to figure it out, and really excited about being able to expand coverage in these different areas in the Promise Zone.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dawn, I know that you have a question, so I'm going to turn it over to you. Can you hear us? I guess not. Does anyone else?
Alvarado.
Oh,
Hello.
we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Wonderful. That being said, I'm a IT teacher for the last 30 years or so, and I'm also a drone pilot instructor was a drone pilot instructor for the Sweetwater School District. And the whole equity thing really is super important. But I also run a program called the Good Neighbor Project. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about is that we have a lot of young people who have decided, for whatever reason, not to finish, in some cases, junior high, not to finish high school, and forget about going to college, okay? They're more concerned about, following, if you will, the lead of those who, don't agree with core values education. And at the end of the day, you got to have a good job. That being said, I've worked many, many years with the San Diego Futures Foundation, and I got to tell you, they do a tremendous work. But one of my concerns is that in many cases, many of the companies in our area, particularly high-tech companies, I won't go into details, but or name anybody, they don't recycle because there's this notion that RAM can somehow be traced, and that random access memory, that's just not the case. but why would you throw out an entire computer because of the RAM? You know, it just seems that because you can't erase, you know, hard drives and all the other kinds of things. And I'm just wondering what's going on, because there's just literally hundreds of thousands of units that are being dumped, literally. So I would love for you also to contact me. Like I said, I work, my family's been in the Promise Zone area for over, well, right around 110 years, and I've been here for 71 of those years. And I have a strong belief in our community, and I'm a trusted resource for many of them. And if we could get together, I'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, sure. John, did you have a particular question that you want to ask, Jonathan?
Well, my question is how can we, you know, get to some of these companies who are literally just, you know, throwing these computers away rather
Yeah, I
than
think
having
that
them
is.
recycled? And I
Yeah,
don't
I
want to
think-
name names, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and I think that is a great question. And you know, as the city looked at it, we worked with the Futures Foundation on appropriate wiping of the hard drives, and we were very happy with the results. And if Gary's on, Gary, have you, from the Futures Foundation, Gary, have you run into those types of concerns, and how are you addressing those concerns from potential donors?
Well, thanks, Jonathan. We do run into those issues. Primarily, it comes from organizations that have primary data concerns, such as healthcare organizations with HIPAA. We have issues around the DoD because of their security issues. I mean, we can address, as you said, we can address most of those, but it's fixed practice that we have to overcome. It's the standardized, here's the way we do it, we've always done it this way, and trying to get them to change their behaviors has been somewhat of a challenge. So, I think that as we've been working together and others, if we can continue to demonstrate success in these areas, it may be ability of chipping away at some of the, I guess, the established practices.
For that answer, Gary, we really appreciate you being here and your partnership with the city. I do want to make sure that we also get to Myron's earlier question. So he says, thanks, Jonathan, regarding the hotspots. What security measures are in place when one is doing banking and healthcare connections?
Great question. These are public hotspots, and we worked with Cox on providing as much security as we could. But anytime you're in the public hotspot realm, there is a little more risk, of course, because it is public and anyone's connected. So we built it out there as secure as we could, but again, it is the public world. So there's always the caveat that you're on a public network.
As a follow-up, are there any other alternatives, for example, at the libraries in terms of that type of secure connectivity?
Yeah, as far as connectivity goes, well, I think a great example, those cellular hotspots at the library, you're the one person connecting on those. And again, that's not the whole world connecting on that. So that would be, a more secure way to get connected.
And Alan, maybe, Jonathan, I'm sure but Alan, I know that Alan and Curtis have been big advocates for getting the word out there about the hotspots. Anything else that our attendees should know about the hotspots and how to access them today?
We have a web page dedicated to all these things. It's on sandiego.gov/SDAccess. And that provides an interactive map to find the closest location of available resources. And as we continue working in the next fiscal year, we will be providing updates, but a lot of options right now, and we hope to add more.
Any other question that I may have missed? This is your opportunity. Here we go. Any possibility of connecting with a VPN provider? They do a lot of promotional ads.
No, that's, You know, that's great. There is VPN access, which is a more secure way to get connected. That's a great suggestion. So let us take that back and see if we could look at maybe incorporating some sort of VPN promotion or something to see if we can provide that additional layer of security.
And then quick shout out to CoCoast for encouraging other businesses to donate PCs and devices. We just donated 120, computers and printers to the San Diego Futures Foundation. So thank you. We really appreciate it. And any other, potential partnerships. This is the place for us to be able to make those connections. So please, if you're interested in further collaborating, drop your information on the chat. With that said, the group that Jonathan referenced earlier, the Digital Equity Working Group, we want to make sure that we're hearing from you first. And in the page that Jonathan actually referenced, the san diego.gov/SD access, we have a couple of I'm going to call them needs assessments, just because they are the city's way of really getting and hearing from the community as to where the gaps in service provision and all the services that, and the programs that we've been rolling out, where the gaps are. So for today's activity and the remainder of our time together, we'll actually be discussing that survey and, where are the gaps? How can we really drive the agenda of the city as it relates to, digital equity and inclusion to really get at the need that we are not meeting through the expansion of SD Access for All, of our partnerships with one another. So thank you, Jonathan, for your time. Right now, we will be doing as a group, and I hope that you get the opportunity to stay on, is actually be able to take a look at that, needs assessment that we're calling it, and really be able to workshop where opportunities for improvement with it are. It is a survey that is both in English and Spanish, and that asks, general information when it comes to households, just so that we're able to better serve our residents. But Haley or Alex, if you're able to share it for the benefit of the group as a screen share, so that we can kind of guide this discussion, that would be great. Okay, so the goal of this forum is to, as I said, inform the work of the Digital Equity Working Group Jonathan mentioned earlier in his presentation. And this forum will be shared with residents and partners, and is already being shared by residents and partners, including other government agencies, city departments, and community-based organizations. And we would like to make sure that we're accurately assessing the gaps in service delivery. As a recent development, we have had, Promise and, City of San Diego representation and SANDAG's Digital Divide Task Force, and they're super interested in collaborating with us to make sure that there's a regional coordination of regional efforts as it relates to them also developing their own long-term strategy when it comes to digital equity and inclusion. So your feedback is much appreciated. You will also have the opportunity to take a look at this at your own time and pace, but we just wanted to make sure that we were showing this information to you as part of our efforts to really making sure that we're getting what the community would like to know and what the community would like to see out of the SD Access for All initiative and everything that we're doing in terms of digital equity and inclusion. So we are looking for specific suggestions for what to include or exclude, and what will increase responsiveness of this, of this forum. We know that our partners and our residents just have survey fatigue. We don't want this to be another burden to them, getting the access to the devices and the connectivity that they need. So what we're looking for is to identify gaps. What are we missing? Are there any other languages besides English and Spanish that this could be on? And your feedback is really important to us, just because we really are able to advocate once we do hear from you as to where the needs are the most present. So this forum will be open until June 14th, I believe. I'm not sure if there's flexibility, Jonathan, to be able to extend that deadline. I'll defer to you on that, because I know that your team will be taking it on and really, seeing how we can put as part of the strategy for next year. But this is a great time for us to be able to think about what the next phase of SD Access for All looks like, and what you would like to see, out of the services that you're seeing right now, out of them in the future, perhaps new opportunities for partnerships. So please use the raise hand function if you'd like to share your feedback with the group. The chat is also available to provide your thoughts as well. But with that, I will also, just give you a quick rundown of what the information this is asking for. So for example, we're asking general information that in terms of zip code and phone number of contact. I see that it's, a required field. So for example, if you would like to see this as an optional field, that's something that we can certainly do. We also just asked general questions about the availability of internet at home, the main reason of not having internet access, and scroll down, Haley, thank you. We give a certain array of options. What kind of electronic devices do you have in your home? And please select all to apply, as well as rating the importance of the ability to easily access internet in any of the following services as well. We want to make sure that we're partnering up with the correct folks providing this type of service. And then how far would you be willing to travel for free Wi-Fi in the case that, the infrastructure is not really available and that we need to make sure that we have another alternate access to internet? It's really important. If free Wi-Fi was offered at specific locations throughout the city, which type of devices would you urge your members of the household use to connect? And again, this goes back to access to not only connectivity, but devices as well. And I also encourage this group to be able to think about not only, being connected, even though this is the focus of this workshop today, but also to think about what other things really make someone who needs to work online, someone needs to, learn online to be successful. As part of the Promise Zones conversations over the last year, we really identified digital literacy as a big, community need, as well as developing and creating environments that are safe to work and learn. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the group. Paul Morris, I see you with your hands up, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, great. Hi, everybody, and thank you for this. The San Diego Housing Commission is about ready to release our residential survey, which is similar in nature. One, two, we'd like to share information and collaborate on some of that. Secondly, you're planning on mailing this out to all San Diego residents?
So this is going to be potentially, sorry to jump in, incorporated into the Emergency Broadband Benefit outreach efforts. So Pillars is considering working this into that process. We want to make it short, and we really just want to get at what are the needs and wants of the community, because we don't have this data at a granular neighborhood-based level right now.
Yeah, so our concern too is obviously we wanted to get it out, but following up with emails or anything like that, we're trying to get to those folks that don't possibly have the internet access. So we're actually going to be hitting a little over 2,000 residents by getting it out in the mail to them with a self-addressed stamped envelope so we can get that information back and calculate that. But I think it's great what you're doing, and I'm really glad for this collaboration, because as we're looking to finalize our residential survey, looking over and sharing some of this information, make sure that we're collecting some of the similar information, or maybe we can see where we're crossing over on what we're collecting. So again, I really appreciate it. I think this is a great program. And again, I'd like to maybe talk more offline with you guys a little bit about your survey versus our survey. So I think it's a great thing to do, and I'm looking forward to the data.
Absolutely. Thank you for that feedback. Anything that you wanted to add, Jonathan or Kelsey? Myron, I definitely want to make sure that I am giving you a shout out, because you are posting on the chat some really good concerns, I think. But I don't want to speak for you. So if you're able to, kind of take the floor, please go ahead.
Thank you. I have some major concerns about security, because it doesn't seem like it's been addressed the way that it needs to be addressed. Many people only know what they know, and they'll go online and they may be exposing themselves without even knowing how they're exposing themselves. And so whatever security patches that can be implemented to address that security with them, if they go on to public Wi-Fi or hotspots, is, to me, a major concern. It just opens up the door for this community, our communities, to become victims of hackers out there. And I know there's already fewer dollars within households within our communities, and we need to protect them as much as we can. So I would like to see some additional work to be geared towards developing some security patches. Thank you.
And as far as the the Wi-Fi, we use standard Wi-Fi encryption, and one of the risks of the the public Wi-Fi world is bad actors get out there and they'll create fake hotspots that lure people in where they can intercept traffic and really approach it from that angle. So I think that's one of the larger risks of public Wi-Fi is just bad actors posing as a hotspot out there and people getting on those instead of the real thing.
Jonathan, Byron, this is Gary Knight with the San Diego Futures. One of the other things that would address it is that we are going to be working with the city on doing some digital literacy education. I think that will help. It won't cure the problem, but making sure people are aware of some of the threats that are out there and how they can deal with them or address them will at least give them a layer of protection they may not have if they just jump on and start trying to use technology without the knowledge of what is available. So just bring that up.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. And our network managers confirmed these hotspots are patched regularly by Cox, so they do get all the appropriate security updates as they're released.
Any other concerns, any follow-up thoughts that the group, has been thinking about? Sarah, I know that you've been really active on the chat as well, and I don't mean to put you on the spot. But anything else that we should be considering as, the city expands on this initiative and any gaps? I guess that's my question.
I think one of the, we've been talking a lot over the whole year about vaccine hesitancy. And I think one of the things that we don't take into consideration is not necessarily that access is a two-way street. And so people don't take access opportunities because they don't want to give access to themselves, to their privacy, to their private lives. They don't want to be followed around by the internet. And they're not wrong. They know that they're the product, not the consumer. So yeah, I feel like as we address it, we also have to bear in mind just what the messaging is and what the how we convey the usefulness and if there are really people who think that chips can be placed into vaccines and put into their bodies, how much worse to think that, someone's going to follow you around on the internet if you go and use a hotspot and don't take advantage of it. So I'm just thinking that, we have to be really open to how other people are feeling as we're trying to press this message, not be kind of evangelizing about you should be on the internet and you should be doing everything on the internet, but also why it's going to help you and how it's going to give you, how we can give you peace of mind as you do it. All right, rant over.
Thank you for saying that, Sarah.
Yeah, Futures Foundation is, a godsend in that respect, because they do understand where the community lives and, is coming from.
I have a question.
Go for it.
My question would be, the cost of internet services and whatnot for a nonprofit can be astronomical. And I was wondering if there's any assistance from the city of San Diego in regards to that. you know, I do crisis intervention and whatnot, suicide prevention counseling and whatnot. And I'll be honest with you, where we're located at, I'm right on Logan Avenue. And our Wi-Fi and all those other issues that we've talked about so far, it's horrible. I literally can go from my office to the back of the property and lose total connection. And I'm just wondering if there's any kind of assistance along those lines. And if so, gosh, please get a hold of me.
I did want to say that the California Public Utilities Commission has a program called the California Teleconnect Fund, and nonprofits are eligible to apply. It's funded through, it's not taxpayer money, but I think some sort of taxes, and it usually cuts internet service by half. So I can look for that and put that in the chat, and we can send out more information, John.
Christine Moore actually just dropped a link on the chat. Christine, I wanted to give you the opportunity to elaborate if that's something that you're comfortable with.
I'd like to go ahead and say that we did try to apply for that. And of course, you know, download, upload speeds are very, very important. And of course, you know, it's very costly. You know, we have a Cox connection. And even at the reduced rate, it is so expensive for us. And we are a small nonprofit, and it's just really tough. And of course, you can imagine with the pandemic and everything, you know, any cost right now is huge. And so any help we can get in that sense would be extremely helpful.
I'm going to be mindful of your time, and I know that we have 10 minutes left. So if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to Promise One staff and we can route it accordingly. But thank you so much for your feedback as it relates to this activity. The last topic that I did want to make sure that we talked about was actually an initiative led by Kelsey Baird, who is now a mentee with the Department of IT, and she is a former Promise Zone AmeriCorps Vista. So Kelsey, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Zio. So I don't know if you can share your screens, someone with the digital inclusion asset mapping form.
One moment.
And then I'll just get into it. So basically, over the course of this month, the city of San Diego, and that's including the Department of IT, public libraries, and the Promise Zone. Thanks, Terry. So we're working really intensely with government. Oh, not the slide, maybe. Well, that's the slide I made. It's not a very good slide. Maybe you could put the form up. Yeah, so we're working with government agencies and our community-based partners. And some of you are here today, 211, San Diego Continuing Education, International Rescue Committee. And so hopefully many of the organizations that you all represent. And we're going to build a database of digital inclusion resources in our region, and that includes the Promise Zone. There it is. So this is the working form, but it is live and you can submit right now. And so basically we're targeting the creation of a centralized, organized inventory of programs, training sessions, digital device resources, computer labs, free Wi-Fi locations, all that live in the community. And so this is part of the city's digital inclusion initiative, SD Access for All. And it's also part of our long-term strategy. And we have two end goals behind this, this collaborative project. And the first is to capture and share out the digital ecosystem that exists in our region. And simultaneously, we're hoping to identify gaps in digital inclusion services and programming. So this project will result in a published directory and a GIS asset map, both of which will be made available through our website, SD Access for All, and also directly to Promise Zone partner organizations. And then the second goal is for this asset map to be used as a tool for the Digital Navigator program that Jonathan spoke a little bit about. And both our library system and local community organizations will be operating this program beginning this summer, we hope. And so a little bit about that, the city is hiring the National Digital Inclusion Alliance, NDIA, which is a nonprofit to offer free of cost training to libraries and CBOs, and this will result in the provision of a digital navigator services throughout the community. And so this is a train the trainer model created by NDIA and born out of the pandemic. And a digital navigator is an individual who addresses the whole digital inclusion process, home connectivity, devices, and digital skills with community members through repeated interactions. So that's a need that has been brought up and communicated by our partners throughout the course of the pandemic. And through our Promise Zone meetings and different collaborations. So we're trying to address that need through this program. And so the digital navigator model, it begins with this asset mapping project, and it rests on this asset map. So this is a critical component of that. So this is the form, and then I'll just walk you through it. That's the explanation. We just ask for your email so that we can get in contact with you if we have any questions. And then we're trying to identify which pillar of digital equity this service that you're inputting is addressing, or multiple. So we're asking that you fill this out for your organization, or if you're aware of any services in your area. And then just basic information, the name of the organization or the type of service, brief description of the services offered. The address will really help us plot it on the map, website, logo, if you've got it, email address, contact information. And then we just want to get a better idea of the type of organization and which type of services they offer, and then which populations they're focusing on. And yeah, schedule of services, and then the service area description and the zip code. So that's the information we're looking for. And so we wanted to share this with you all, bring it to your attention. We're going to be doing this for the month, and then coming back to it regularly throughout the year to keep it updated. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. If anybody has any questions or thoughts.
Yeah, so thank you so much for that overview. I think that it was really helpful to explain, I guess, the end game with this. Christine Moore is asking, what organizations are we partnering with for this effort for the digital navigators? If you could just repeat them.
Yeah, so we're still working on finalizing the community-based organizations that will be participating in the training and offering the services. But the asset mapping, it's going to be occurring with 211, San Diego Futures Foundation, San Diego Continuing Education, just a myriad of different community-based organizations.
Great. So again, this is an opportunity for us to hear back from you. We want to make sure that this is a collective, collaborative effort, and that if there are, community-based organizations, which we know you all are doing the work already, that we need to know from and hear from and know about and partner with, please let's make sure that we are keeping those communication lines open. We will be sharing this and all other resources shared during this meeting as part of a follow-up MailChimp. So please keep your eyes out for that communication, including the recording of this webinar, this workshop as well. It's not a webinar, but any other questions as it relates to digital navigation, the city efforts at large, or anything discussed during this meeting, which I think has been it's been great and really informative and really collaborative. Okay, well, if you do have follow-up questions, I am actually dropping my email on the chat directly. We've been able to share as well the contact information from all of our presenters, and we will follow up either through email or MailChimp with that information as well. But with that, thank you so much for being able to attend and taking the time out of your busy days, for being here and being collaborative and being open to learning and being open to partnering up with not only the city, but the Promise Zone at large. This is what the Promise Zone is about. So we appreciate your partnership. We appreciate your time. If there's any way that we could be improving these meetings, either in terms of content, flow, length, just let us know as well. We will be providing a link to a survey, and please feel free to reach out to us directly should you want to chat with us and make sure that we're collaborating and that we're not being duplicative on the efforts. You know, we are here because digital inclusion is economic inclusion, and we want to make sure that we are working on this together. With that, thank you, everyone. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your Tuesday.